The email came in at 2:47 a.m. I was 37,000 feet over the Atlantic, cabin lights dimmed, most of business class passed out after the dinner service. I'd just closed the biggest deal of my career, $2.1 billion, 3 continents, 10 days that would have broken most people. Subject line, termination notice. Effective immediately. I'm Carter Reynolds, 52 years old, and I just got fired while flying home from saving my company's entire future. Except here's the thing. It wasn't their future anymore. It was mine. I stared at the screen thinking maybe jet lag was playing tricks. But no, there it was in perfect clarity. Your employment with Titan Core Industries has been terminated effective immediately. Your access has been revoked. Please do not return to any company property. Sender, Victor Ashford, the CEO himself. The same guy who'd shaken my hand 3 weeks ago and said, "You're the only one I trust to close this." I looked around the cabin. Everyone else had their eye masks on, wrapped in airline blankets. I was alone with the engine hum and a silence that suddenly felt deafening. 10 days, 3 cities. Tokyo for the technical framework, London for regulatory compliance, São Paulo for the final signatures. I hadn't just participated in this deal. I'd architected it from nothing. 3 legacy telecom firms, 1 synchronized cloud migration, $2.1 billion over 7 years. And now I didn't even work there anymore. Here's what you need to understand about betrayal. It doesn't announce itself. It seeps in slowly, like water through a crack you didn't know existed, until one morning you're standing in it ankle deep, wondering when the flood started. For me, it started about a year ago. I'd been at Titan Core for 15 years, came in when it was mid-tier and hungry. I built the international division from scratch into a $2 billion revenue stream, spoke 3 languages, lived out of airports, closed deals that made our competitors nervous. I'd negotiated with everyone from Tokyo tech giants to German industrial conglomerates. My first big win was with Yuki Asano, CTO of Telnova. That was 15 years back. He'd flown to New York to hear our pitch, sat through 3 presentations from our sales team, and walked out unimpressed. I caught him in the lobby, asked if he had 20 minutes for coffee. He gave me 15. I didn't pitch. I asked questions about his infrastructure challenges, about Japanese data sovereignty concerns nobody else had bothered to research, about what kept him up at night. 2 weeks later, we closed a $120 million contract. Yuki told me afterward, "You're the first American who listened more than you talked." That became my approach. Build relationships that outlasted quarterly earnings calls. I showed up to Luis Mata's daughter's wedding in Sao Paulo, stayed up until 3 a.m. helping Linda Clark's legal team navigate Brexit compliance issues. Closed more deals on golf courses than in boardrooms because that's where people actually talk. But somewhere along the way, Titan Core changed. Victor started promoting safe bets over smart ones. Innovation got replaced by politics. People like me, the ones who built the infrastructure, started getting pushed to the margins. Then Brandon showed up. Brandon Ashford, Victor's son, 31 years old, Harvard MBA, 2 years of actual experience. He got hired as a strategic advisor, which is corporate speak for we're inventing a job because of who his dad is. I thought I could ignore it, keep my head down, do my work. But then things started happening. 6 months ago, I was on a video call with a prospective client in Berlin, major manufacturing firm, $400 million potential contract. Brandon was supposed to be shadowing, learning how these conversations work. 5 minutes in, he interrupted me mid-sentence to suggest we could leverage our synergistic capabilities across multiple verticals. The client's CFO blinked. "What does that mean?" Brandon fumbled, started throwing out more buzzwords. Cloud-native ecosystems, agile transformation, digital disruption paradigms. I watched the client's face go from confused to annoyed to done. After Brandon finished, I muted us. "Let me handle this." I spent the next 40 minutes translating Brandon's word salad into actual solutions. Specific technical specs, real timelines, honest cost breakdowns. By the end, the client was back in. But I'd lost an hour cleaning up a mess that shouldn't have existed. Brandon thanked me afterward, said he was still learning the ropes. That would have been fine. Everyone starts somewhere. Except 2 weeks later, I saw an internal memo about Brandon's successful client acquisition in the German market. My name wasn't mentioned once. Then came the strategy document incident. I spent 6 weeks drafting a complete restructure plan for our European operations, market analysis, risk assessments, implementation roadmaps, sent it to Victor for review. 2 weeks later, Brandon presented his strategy to the board. My exact plan, my exact words, his name on the slide deck. I checked the document properties that night. Original author, Carter Reynolds. Last modified by Brandon Ashford. I should have confronted him right then. Should have walked into Victor's office and demanded an explanation. But I didn't. Because I already knew what would happen. They'd call it a misunderstanding. Say I was being territorial. That corporate speak word that always gets used when someone questions the people in power. So I kept quiet, and I started planning. Because 8 months ago, I saved TitanCore from a $650 million disaster. A German conglomerate had walked out mid-negotiation over data sovereignty issues. Legal panicked. Finance froze. Our VP of sales nearly had a breakdown in the conference room. I didn't wait for permission. Rewrote the entire compliance framework in 48 hours. Got on a call with their board. Addressed every concern they'd raised, and several they hadn't thought of yet. By Friday, the deal was signed. By Monday, there was champagne in the executive lounge. People congratulated me in hallways. Someone from HR slipped me a draft org chart with a new title, Executive Vice President, Global Strategy. Then nothing happened. Still under review, they said. Board needs to approve it. Let's revisit next quarter. 3 months later, I found out why. I was in a conference room prepping materials. The door to the adjacent boardroom was cracked open. Victor's voice carried through. Carter's brilliant, no question. But he makes people uncomfortable. Too direct. Doesn't build consensus before making moves. Another board member. Brandon's got better instincts for executive leadership. More collaborative. Collaborative. That's code for follows orders. I stood there holding my presentation folder, finally understanding. They weren't going to promote me. They were positioning Brandon to replace me. Not because I wasn't good enough. Because I was too good, and I didn't have the right last name. So I did something I'm not particularly proud of. I started building an exit strategy. 6 months before that termination email, I registered a company, Apex Ventures. No press release, no announcements, just paperwork and quiet conversations with 3 people who'd also been pushed out when merit stopped mattering. James Palmer, former CFO who left after an ethics clash with Victor. Rahul Singh, systems architect who quit when they promoted Brandon's college friend over him. Andrea Hughes, M&A attorney tired of watching incompetent people make billion-dollar decisions. We met in coffee shops, apartments, encrypted video calls, built an infrastructure that could do everything TitanCore did, but leaner and without the politics. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning survival. Because I'd learned something in 15 years. Power respects leverage, not loyalty. And I was about to need every bit of leverage I had. The Trident deal was supposed to be TitanCore's crowning achievement. 3 legacy telecom firms that had never worked together, unified under one platform. Every industry analyst said it couldn't be done. I spent 10 days proving them wrong. In Tokyo, Yuki tested me hard. He'd learned to trust me over 15 years, but this was different. This wasn't just Telnova's infrastructure. This was their entire future. You promise security, he said before the tea even arrived. So do your competitors. Why should we believe TitanCore offers more than words? I pulled up the encryption specifications I'd designed with our engineering team. Protocols customized for multi-jurisdictional compliance, real-time redundancy, zero-trust architecture. I walked him through every technical detail, not the sanitized version we showed investors, but the actual nuts and bolts. When I finished, he didn't smile. He just nodded. I see why they send you. The others speak, but they do not understand. As we walked to his car afterward, I asked him, something I'd been thinking about for months. What if there were a leaner model? Same technical foundation, but fewer layers between need and delivery. Yuki turned. You mean less TitanCore? Something like that. He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me for a long moment. Then he got in his car, rolled down the window, and said, "Send me the materials." Privately. In London, Linda Clark's legal team nearly killed the deal. Brexit had turned regulatory compliance into a nightmare, and TitanCore's standard contract language was riddled with ambiguities I'd flagged 6 months earlier. They never fixed them. So at 11:40 p.m. in a tiny flat I'd rented for 2 nights, I rewrote the entire thing using templates Andrea and I had been developing quietly through Apex. Clean language, no loopholes, no corporate doublespeak. Next morning, I handed the revised contract across the polished table at Eurocom's headquarters. Linda raised an eyebrow. "This isn't Titan Core's standard language. It's the version that works," I said. "Unless you prefer a 3-week delay and 50 red-line revisions." She skimmed the first page. "You did this yourself?" "Off the record." Linda smiled. "Maybe next time we negotiate, you'll be sitting on this side of the table." She wasn't just impressed. She was suggesting something, wondering why I wasn't already running my own operation. By the time I landed in Sao Paulo, I was running on caffeine and willpower. This was the final piece: financial structure, revenue share models, data sovereignty provisions, all the red flags in one room. Luis Mata grilled me for 4 hours. Risk thresholds, capital exposure, long-term support commitments. When I held firm on the numbers the Titan Core board had fought me on, he finally leaned back and exhaled. "I trust you, Carter," he said, tapping the table. "But I don't trust Titan Core. You know that, right?" "I do. So if this falls apart later because of their politics, it won't." He looked at me carefully. "Unless you leave." That's when I leaned in and kept my voice low. "What if there were a way for you to get this deal without that risk? Without the politics, the bottlenecks, the committee decisions?" Luis didn't blink. "You know the answer to that. 3 cities, 3 conversations, 3 seeds planted. I wasn't stealing clients, I was offering them a choice they didn't know they had yet. The thing about building something in secret is that you have to be patient. Can't rush, can't get sloppy. Every piece has to be legal, documented, bulletproof." 6 weeks before the trip, I'd filed paperwork with Titan Core's legal department requesting permission to maintain offline backups of all Trident deal documents. Standard protocol for high-risk international negotiations across multiple jurisdictions. They approved it without reading the fine print, signed off by their own compliance team. So when that termination email came through at 2:47 a.m., when they locked me out of every system, erased my access, deleted my existence from their servers, they thought they'd cut off my control. They were wrong. I reached under the seat and pulled out my second laptop, matte black, unbranded, encrypted 6 ways from Sunday, the one that had nothing to do with Titan Core. I logged into Apex's secure portal. Everything was there. Every contract draft, every negotiation note, every technical specification, all backed up, all legal, all mine. The client portal Rahul built was beautiful, clean interface, military-grade encryption, completely invisible unless you had an access code. I'd sent those codes to Yuki, Linda, and Luis 2 weeks earlier, buried in routine project updates. Just a backup communication channel in case of technical difficulties. All 3 had logged in. All 3 were waiting. I opened a new message window, typed 3 identical emails. 4 words. "The door is open." Sent at 3:15 a.m. over the Atlantic. Then I closed the laptop, leaned back, and smiled. They thought terminating me mid-flight would break me. All they did was cut the last rope holding me to them. When I landed at JFK 8 hours later, my phone had blown up. 14 missed calls from Titan Core's main line. 6 voicemails from Victor's assistant. 3 texts from Brandon asking if I'd gotten any strange emails. I deleted everything. Took a cab to a hotel near Central Park. Not home. Wasn't ready for that yet. Checked in, went upstairs, pulled out the black laptop again. 3 new messages waiting in the client portal. Yuki Asano, received your note, will await your signal. Linda Clark, understood, standing by. Luis Mata, about time. I sat on that hotel bed and let out a breath I'd been holding for 6 months. The next morning was Monday. I knew exactly what would be happening at Titan Core. Victor would walk into his 9 a.m. executive meeting already tense. His assistant would hand him the weekly status update on Trident accounts. Except this time, there'd be no progress reports, no client check-ins, no confirmations, because I wasn't sending them anymore. According to James, who still had friends in finance, Victor tried calling Yuki first. No answer. Tried again 20 minutes later. Nothing. By 10 a.m., they moved on to Eurocom. Linda Clark, who normally responded within an hour, suddenly had an out-of-office message. Please direct all Trident-related inquiries to your current point of contact, except they didn't have one anymore. By 11:30, full panic. Someone called Brazilink. Luis's assistant answered and said he was unavailable. Unavailable today? Victor asked. Unavailable for Titan Core, she said, and hung up. I wasn't there to see Victor's face, but I can picture it. That moment when you realize the machine you thought you controlled actually belongs to someone else. By noon, all 3 clients had gone completely dark. No responses, no explanations, just silence. And in a company like Titan Core, silence isn't absence, it's a verdict. That afternoon, they made one last desperate move. Investor Relations sent a mass email to all 3 firms requesting joint press statements confirming Titan Core's continued leadership on the Trident project. Only one replied. Luis Mata. Single sentence. No greeting, no signature. Titan Core no longer speaks for us. Reynolds does. James forwarded me that email. I read it 3 times. Not because I was surprised, because I wanted to remember the moment when my name carried more weight than their company. I opened the press release Rahul had been preparing for 2 weeks. Simple, professional, no drama. Apex Ventures announces multi-continental strategic partnership with Telnova, Eurocom, and Brazilink. Agreement valued at $2.1 billion over 7 years for secure modular cloud integration across 3 regions. At the bottom, for inquiries, contact Carter Reynolds, CEO. I made 2 small edits and sent it to our distribution service. It went live Tuesday morning at 9:30. No fanfare, just facts. By 10 a.m., trade publications were calling. By 11 a.m., TechWatch Global ran a headline, The Silent Takeover, Who is Apex Ventures and Why is Titan Core Panicking? By noon, we had 53 partnership inquiries. I didn't answer any of them, not yet. I was waiting for one specific call. It came at 2:35 p.m., unknown number. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Carter Reynolds. Carter, Victor's voice, tight, controlled, barely holding it together. We need to talk. No, I said. We really don't. You can't just steal our clients. I didn't steal anyone, Victor. I gave them a choice. They chose. Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, calculating, trying to figure out his next move. Was this personal? I almost laughed. Everything's personal. You just didn't notice until it cost you something. I hung up. Then I did something I hadn't done in 15 years of working for that man. I turned off my phone and went for a walk. 3 weeks later, I was in Munich. The Global Tech Summit. Same conference where Titan Core was supposed to announce their breakthrough partnership with Dvorak Systems, some Eastern European cloud firm. Pure damage control after losing Trident. I wasn't supposed to be there. But Andrea had gotten Apex invited as a rising player in enterprise infrastructure. Translation: everyone wanted to meet the guy who just humiliated Titan Core. The meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. in conference room C214. Victor would be there with his team, trying to close this deal before their stock dropped any further. What they didn't know was that Marek Dvorak, the CEO, had also invited me. I'd met Marek 2 years ago in Prague. Long dinner talking about sovereign cloud hosting over excellent Czech beer. He didn't remember me at first, but when Apex made headlines, he did. Sent me a private message. Would value your perspective on our expansion plans. I arrived at 9:15, intentionally late. The room was already set up. Victor at the head of the table in his perfect suit. Brandon beside him with a leather portfolio playing executive. 2 compliance managers looking nervous. Marek saw me first. Carter, good to see you again. Victor turned, the color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. What are you doing here? He tried to sound authoritative, came out shaky. I was invited, I said, walking to the table. I represent Apex Ventures. We're the other party in this negotiation. You could have heard a pin drop. Victor recovered fast, I'll give him that. This is a closed session between Titan Core and Dvorak Systems. Actually, Marek said carefully, after your firm submitted 2 conflicting capability statements, the summit organizers requested a joint review. Transparency protocol. I laid out Apex's infrastructure map, clean, updated, tailored specifically to Dvorak's regional needs. Rahul had spent 3 weeks on it. Their CTO had already reviewed the technical specs privately. Mark studied it, then looked at Victor. Your position was that Titan Core could handle full European integration within 18 months. We can, Brandon jumped in. Eager. Desperate to prove something. We have the resources and the track record. I didn't even look at him. Kept my eyes on Marek. Their last European rollout took 31 months and came in 40% over budget. I know because I managed the damage control. Victor cut in fast. You really want to partner with someone who abandons his company mid-deal? There it was. The accusation I'd been waiting for. I smiled. Calm. Cold. I don't abandon ships, Victor. I just refuse to go down with ones where the captain drilled the holes himself. The room went silent. Brandon's pen stopped moving. The compliance managers stared at their laptops. Marek looked between us, reading the room, understanding more than what was being said. We'll proceed with a dual technical review, he said finally. But I want Apex's proposal as the primary framework. Victor's jaw tightened. This wasn't the meeting he'd planned. I could have left it there. Could have taken the win and walked out professional. But I didn't fly to Munich just for a contract. One condition, I said. Everyone looked at me. I'll proceed with joint infrastructure development only if Victor isn't involved in the implementation. I don't do business with people who fire their architects mid-flight. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was final. Mark studied me for 3 long seconds. Then he nodded. I respect that boundary. Victor stood up, didn't say a word, just gathered his papers with shaking hands and walked out. Brandon followed, looking back once like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. The door closed behind them. Marek extended his hand across the table. I believe we have a deal to discuss, Mr. Reynolds. I shook it. I believe we do. That afternoon, I walked through Munich's old town alone, past the Marienplatz with its tourists and beer gardens. The city was beautiful in late spring. My phone was off. I wasn't checking emails, wasn't thinking about next moves. For the first time in months, I just existed in the moment. There's an old military principle I learned years ago. Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Victor had built his own trap, promoted incompetence over merit, chose loyalty over capability, fired the one person holding his international division together. I didn't destroy Titan Core. He did. I just stopped holding up the walls. That evening, James and Rahul met me at a cafe near our hotel. They were both grinning. Heard you dropped a bomb in there, James said. No bombs, I replied. Just boundaries. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on. News alert. Titan Core CEO Victor Ashford steps down amid leadership restructuring. Then another. Brandon Ashford resigns from VP position, citing personal reasons. I showed them the screen. Nobody said anything for a minute. Think they're done? Rahul asked. Doesn't matter, I said. We're just getting started. And we were. Over the next 6 months, Apex closed 4 more major contracts. Revenue hit $380 million in year 1. The team grew to 52 people, every one of them chosen for skill, not connections. We moved into real office space. Nothing flashy, but clean and functional. Actual windows that opened. A kitchen where people talked instead of hiding in cubicles. In the main conference room, Rahul mounted a brushed steel plaque on the wall. Apex Ventures. Founded by Carter Reynolds. Not buried in footnotes. Not edited out before the meeting. Just there, visible, permanent. I stood looking at it one morning before anyone else arrived, thinking about all the times my name had been deleted from documents, all the presentations where I built the deck but someone else presented, all the moments I was told to be a team player, which really meant be invisible. They'd taken pieces of my voice for so long, but they never really silenced me, because I'd learned something important. You don't beat people like Victor by shouting louder. You beat them by building something they can't touch. That same week, an email came through from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, thank you. Mr. Reynolds, you don't know me, but I've been following your story. I'm 48, been at my company for 12 years. Last month they promoted my boss's nephew over me for a position I built from nothing. I was ready to quit, bitter and angry. Then I read about Apex, about what you did. I'm not quitting, I'm building. Thank you for showing there's another way. Michael T. I read it 3 times, then I printed it and pinned it to the wall beside my desk. Because that's what stories like mine are really about. Not revenge. Something simpler and more important. Reclamation. Taking back what's yours. Not with noise or drama, but with quiet, deliberate action. Building something so solid that when they try to erase you, there's nothing left to erase. Because you're already somewhere else, somewhere better. Last month, Yuki called, not about business, just to talk. We spent an hour discussing nothing in particular. At the end, he said something I keep thinking about. You know, Carter, the difference between Titan Core and Apex isn't the technology. Titan Core wanted to own us. Apex wants to serve us. That's why we stayed. After we hung up, I sat at my desk looking out at the city. 15 years I spent building someone else's empire, told I was too direct, too independent, too much. Now I had my own empire, small but growing, built on foundations they taught me to lay, constructed entirely on my terms, my name on the door, my rules, my team. And every morning when I walk in, I don't think about what they took from me. I think about what I built despite them. There's a moment that happened about 3 months after Munich that I keep coming back to. I was in Dubai closing a deal with Ahmed Al-Rashid, CEO of one of the largest telecommunications firms in the Middle East. We'd met through Marek's introduction. Ahmed had heard about the Trident deal, about Titan Core, about everything. We were in his office on the 60th floor overlooking the city. He poured 2 glasses of 30-year-old scotch. Didn't ask if I wanted one, just poured and slid it across his massive desk. "Tell me something," he said. "When they fired you on that airplane, what did you feel?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Relief," I said finally. He raised an eyebrow. "Not anger?" That came later, but in the moment, relief. Because for the first time in 15 years, I didn't owe them anything anymore. Ahmed smiled. "That's why I wanted to meet you. Most men in your position would have felt destroyed. You felt freed." We closed an $800 million infrastructure deal that afternoon, over scotch and honesty. That's the thing they never understood at Titan Core. Business isn't about control, it's about trust. And you can't build trust when you're constantly trying to own people. 6 months after Apex launched, I got a call from Linda Clark in London. She'd been talking to some other European firms, wanted to know if we could handle 3 more contracts simultaneously. "How big are we talking?" I asked. "Combined?" "About $1.2 billion over 5 years. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was calculating capacity, because I was thinking about something Victor once told me. "Don't take on more than you can control," he'd said. "Growth is about maintaining leverage." But that's exactly wrong. Growth isn't about control, it's about capability. "Send me the details," I told Linda. "We'll make it work." We did. Hired 23 more people, opened an office in London. Rahul built out our infrastructure to handle triple the load. By month 8, Apex was operating in 7 countries across 4 continents. I still take the calls myself, still show up to the meetings, still remember names and ask about people's families, not because I have to, because that's how you build something that lasts. Brandon called me once, about 4 months after he resigned. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got me. "Carter," he said, voice different than I remembered. Quieter, less certain. "I know I don't have the right to ask, but I wanted to say I'm sorry." I didn't say anything. Let him fill the silence. I didn't understand what I was doing. Taking credit for your work. I told myself I was learning, that it was just how things worked. But I knew. Deep down, I knew it was wrong. "What do you want from me, Brandon?" "Nothing," he said. "I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What my father did. What I did. And I'm trying to do better." I thought about hanging up. Thought about telling him exactly what I thought of him and his apologies. But I didn't. "Then do better," I said. "Not for me. For the next person your father tries to erase." I hung up. Haven't heard from him since. I don't know if Brandon actually changed. Don't know if he's building something real or just found a new place to coast on his last name. But that's not my problem anymore. Last week I was back in Sao Paulo meeting with Luis. We were celebrating the 3-year anniversary of the original Trident deal. His company had grown 40% since switching to Apex's platform. We were having dinner at his favorite restaurant. Small place, family-owned, incredible food. His daughter was there, the one whose wedding I'd attended years ago. She's a VP at Brasilink now. "You know what I remember most about working with Titan Core?" Luis said, refilling my wine glass. I never knew who I was actually talking to. Every call, different people, different stories, no continuity. And with Apex? With Apex, I call you, You answer. Or if you can't, James answers, and he knows exactly what I need. It's simple. It works. Simple, that's the word. Titan Core made everything complicated because complexity creates opportunities for politics, for credit stealing, for people like Brandon to hide their incompetence behind corporate structure. Apex is simple because we don't need the complexity. We just do the work. Walking back to my hotel that night in Sao Paulo, I thought about that termination email, the one that came in at 2:47 a.m. while I was 37,000 feet over the Atlantic. Victor thought he was ending my story, thought he was cutting me loose before I became more of a problem. What he actually did was force me to build something I'd been too loyal to build myself. I carry a printed copy of that email in my desk drawer, not as a reminder of what they did to me, as a reminder of what I did next. Because that's the real lesson here. Not that bad things happen, not that people will betray you or take credit for your work or push you aside when you become inconvenient. The lesson is what you do after. You can spend your energy being angry, being bitter, telling everyone who'll listen about how you were wronged, or you can spend it building. I chose building. 3 years later, Apex is valued at $2.8 billion. We employ 127 people across 9 countries. Every single one of them was hired because they earned it, not because they knew someone. And my name is on the door. Not hidden, not edited out, not replaced before the meeting. Just there. Permanent. Mine. If you're reading this from a desk where someone else is getting promoted for your work, where merit matters less than last names, where you keep being told to wait your turn while watching less qualified people skip the line, I want you to understand something. You're not stuck. You're not powerless. You're just in the wrong story. I was 52 when I got fired. 52. That's supposed to be the age where you're winding down, playing it safe, counting the years until retirement. Instead, I built an empire. Not because I'm special, because I stopped waiting for permission. They thought the termination email was the end. They were wrong. It was just the beginning. Your beginning might not look like mine, might not be $2.1 billion deals or international clients, might be something smaller, quieter, different. But it's yours, and nobody can take it if you build it right. So stop waiting for them to recognize you. Stop hoping the next promotion will finally be yours. Stop believing that loyalty will eventually be rewarded. Start building. Start now. Because 15 years from now, you'll either be exactly where you are, still waiting, still hoping, still being erased, or you'll have your name on something that can't be deleted. I made my choice at 37,000 feet with a termination email glowing on my screen. What's yours? Stories like this, every day. Subscribe and start building yours.